Good day, everyone. For our section this week, we'll be discussing about the 10 SAT reading tips that will help you to have higher scores if you can follow these steps one after the other. In your SAT exams, you'll be having the math sections, the reading sections, which is same thing as comprehension. You'll be having the vocabulary section, and also you'll be having where you're going to write essay, and depending on the kind of topics it's going to give to you. But everything depends on how you familiarize yourself with a lot of practice questions. But we're going to be discussing about these 10 tips for today and this week. Number one of the tips says, let's try to read everything through, and then I will explain each one of them one after the other, and then we're going to keep it a stop, and then also receive your questions on any areas you think you need any. Get familiar with types of SAT reading passages. Do not read every sentence. Do a preliminary scheme of passage before looking at the questions. Write a summary in the margin of each paragraph as you progress. Use keyword scheming for more specific questions. 6. Predict before looking at the answer options. Get familiar with the common wrong answer traps. Keep a different strategy in mind for each SAT reading question type. Use time checkpoints to stay on track. When in doubt, choose the boring answers. Okay, now let's just go on. We're going to explain everything one after the other, and also you can also send in on our social media handles. We'll drop it at the end of this video. You can send it to us, and then we're ready to give you answers to anything you think you want to learn more. Get familiar with the types of SAT reading passages. We have different kind of SAT passages. You're going to have different one. You're going to have the natural science, social science, historical documents, literary narrative. All these are the kind of passages you're going to be having. Depending on any one of them, you can come across. But how can you familiarize yourself with this type of reading passages if you don't consult BankyA Foundation or any other very good tutorial centers that they help in SAT exams, or you do some practice yourselves? You do a lot of readings. You buy a lot of. Last week we posted some of where you can get free materials for SAT exams. We're going to be doing that again this week. You need to do a lot of practice. You need to learn and then to familiarize yourself with this kind of questions. How are questions set? How historical documents, how do they look like? When you familiarize yourself with that, it helps you to be able to know what next to do, or how to be able to go through the second, which is number 2 point. Do not read every sentence. If you don't familiarize yourself with a lot of SAT reading passages, there's no how you will not fall into the second point. But if you familiarize yourself, this second point is very easier for you, in sense that you don't need to read every sentence in your SAT. This is what we call skip. You can do a lot of skip. You can also, because SAT is not like reading a real life story. No. You do not want to read every single sentence in the passage, because it's time consuming. You don't want to do that. It's time consuming. So you want to do a lot of, skip, and ensure what you are skipping are what things that were not necessary for you to watch, to read or to learn, because there's a lot of things that will be attached while reading and which are not necessary for your success in the SAT. Number 3, do a preliminary scheme of the passage before looking at the question. This is very important. You don't go straight to the question. Do a preliminary scheme of the passage before looking at the question. Yeah, when we say do a preliminary scheme of the question, so all you need to do, the first thing to do before looking at the question is an initial scheme of the passage. You have to do a preliminary scheme of the passage before running through the question and having an understanding of the question. You have to what? You need to skimming on the SAT entire reading only the important sentence and skipping the rest. So on this part 3, you have to do a preliminary scheme of the passage before looking at the question. It's just getting some kind of key areas where you need, and then you go straight to the question to understand the question before now going back to read the passage. Now the fourth one says, write a summary in the margins for each paragraph as you progress. Now what I used to tell my students is also, when you are reading your passage, you'll be coming across a lot of vocabularies. Always make sure you pick up your pencil, underline or write it out, and make sure that you understand that vocabulary, because that vocabulary is going to give more meaning to your passage. And also write a summary of the margin for each paragraph as you progress. So as you progress on each paragraph, you have definitely going to have one answers in each paragraph. Make sure you are able to summarize that paragraph while you are reading, because it's going to help you to go straight to answer your question immediately and you won't be wasting time. 5 says, use keyword skimming for more specific question. There will be questions that pertain to specific details in the passage. You may remember that I said to you, why that was in the first, in the third discussion, in the third point, that you need to do what we call preliminary scheme of the passage. So in this 5, key point 5, you need to do what? Use keyword skimming for more specific questions. So what do I mean by that? Pick the most unique word in the question and scan for it in the passage. Remember I said something earlier, vocabularies, when you say any vocabularies in your passage, they are always key point to that passage. So take note of that and expatiate on that, and then it's very easy for you to be able to get your answer, or to be able to do any summary you want to do, or helps you even in the number 6 tips. 6 says predict before looking at the answers options. Now, why you already have an idea of the question they ask you in your passage, so you need to be able to do what we call prediction. You need to be able to predict what the kind of options you're going to look like, or what you're going to be seeing. By when you can be able to predict, then you are automatically already giving yourself the answers to that passage. Number 7, get familiar with the common wrong answer traps. Wrong answer traps made to appear correct. Some answers will always look correct, they will always, but there are ways of trapping you. They will also look so, they will look so real. But you need to understand that you cannot get familiar with the common wrong answer if you don't do practice. If you are just waiting for the exams, getting to your SAT and wanting to get all this, you can't. You need to get familiar before your exams. These are things you need to do before your exam day. And I also tell people, a lot of students run away from PSAT. You do your PSAT while from grade 8, you do in grade 8, grade 9, grade 10. These are things that give you confidence, expose you to a lot of questions, expose you to different kind of ways in which SAT are being said, because these are the PSAT is just preparing you for the main game. Number 8, keep a different strategy in mind for each SAT reading question type. So you need to make sure that what you have a different strategy. Main purpose question, line reference question, keyword questions, interference question, evidence-based reading questions, vocabulary in context questions. You need to understand all this, because these are the things you say. I told you earlier, you're going to be seeing some kind of vocabulary. They will tell you that, okay, from the paragraphs or from this line 5, what is the meaning of this vocabulary? You need to understand. You need to keep a strategy in mind on how you want to tackle these SAT reading types. So you need to make sure that you have that. And all these are more practice, more reading, more exercise, consulting tutorial centers, and buying a lot of SAT practice books that will also help you get you prepared ahead. Number 9 says use time checkpoint to stay on track. You have to make sure that you cannot get used to this number 9 if you don't do a lot of practice. So because when you're doing your practice, you have to know, because every SAT questions have time, and then you have to make sure that while you're practicing, you set your time. If the time you have allocated to is 20 minutes, set your time to 10 to 15 minutes. Have extra 5 minutes for yourself for, okay, maybe you want to do some revision. These are things that will help you to be able to stay on track. And then remember, in SAT questions, you're going to be having 65 minutes to answer 52 questions. So you need to be able to learn how to be able to manage that your 65 minutes for the 52 questions. And then take note, you cannot leave any answer undone. And that is when you cannot leave any answer without not taking any options for any of the questions. Now that is when we come to the number 10. The last key point is, when in doubt, choose the boring answers. Well, I tell many of my students, you don't just assume and start, picking answers. Now, what you need to do is make sure you do those ones you are confident with. That in terms of, you've studied the passage, you've done all through the tips from 1 to 9, you've done all your best, and then you have some few questions, maybe like out of the 52 questions, you have maybe like 4 to 5 questions that you are not sure. Okay, you don't even know what to pick. By again, now you can now go. Why do they say choose, when you are in doubt, choose the boring answers? It's because choosing any wrong answers will not cost you anything. Also, choosing any answer will not cost you anything. Peradventure, you may get it, and that will also boost your marks. But leaving it not answered is you losing mark, and which nobody is going to give that to you. So you need to ensure to know how to get this done. So these are the tips that can help you in your reading exercise for your SAT. So make sure you follow us through, ask questions, send us email. This week we'll be posting a lot of scholarship for high school students and also for college students. Follow us through on all our social media handles, and we are there ready to give you answers anytime, any day. Thank you for this week. Join us again next week for our questions and answer. Thank you. Bye.